Welcome to a new Foil Drive podcast. We've got Jeremy Wilmotte here joining us today. He's been busy actually winning the Northern Beaches downwind foil race that Foil Drive sponsored just on the weekend. And not only did he win the foil assist division, he was actually the first guy across the line in the race. And then to also finish the downwind race and then motor all the way back to the start on his Fusion foil drive. So that's something that blew my mind when I came in a long time after him. And I just kind of wanted to catch up with you today, Jeremy, and talk about kind of what you've been up to and also this race and kind of like the tactics that you had and what you did to win it. So welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me on board. So it's that was a pretty cool day actually. There was a fair few elements that went into that. I don't even consider myself to be that much of a downwind or even let alone a fast guy. So it was really cool to mix it up with the speedies of the world. So yeah.
Yeah, we kind of had some really challenging conditions, which as a downwind race, I organized the event, so it was challenging having dished out like a really challenging forecast where basically we had no wind. We had residual swell going the direction that we wanted, but it was kind of cool to see like the foil assist division had more people enter than the SUP division because there's probably more SUP downwind people in our local area and people around Australia that love to compete. But I think when they seen the forecast, they kind of got a little bit scared away by just how tough and challenging it was. But the foil assist crew and especially the foil drive community definitely kind of rallied together. And, I think whenever there's a foil event on where people can kind of all hang out with like-minded people, it's a great time. So it was cool to see there was more people in the foil assist category than the SUP.
Because what were the numbers? It was almost 50-50, wasn't it?
I think there was more foil assist. I think there was
More foil.
60 people entered, and for reference, there was actually probably 8 knots of wind going adjacent to us. So
Well,
the wind was
it was
the
probably
wind was
like the year before where the conditions were as good as they get 3 days prior, and then we had to pick on the weekend. So you had a tough call to do. Saturday and Sunday both had. So for the people that don't know the area, we had a wind that was going at perpendicular to the actual coastline, which is not ideal for a downwinder. And we had what do we reckon, 5 to 10 knots of
yeah, it was probably
perpendicular wind?
5 to 10 knots. That was kind of not going in the way that helped at all. So
Yeah. So put it this way, it was so light that when I was getting ready for the race, there was multiple people that came over and were like, "Oh, I don't even know if I'm going to make it on the battery." And I was like, "What? Like, is it really that flat out there?" But yeah, it was great to see. I mean, the four-drive assist, in my opinion, was always going to take off because it's so accessible to everyone and anyone can really do it. Like, it's fun. It's a good way to have fun.
yeah, it was cool because I think a few people that have never raced before, it was their first race. So just being in that scenario where you're with all, you're on a start line, there's nerves, there's a siren that goes off, and like when everyone goes, it's kind of like it's a buzz. So it was cool to see a lot of people experience that for the first time, and I think it's also great for all the other competitors too to have numbers because like it would like a few years ago if we had those conditions and there was no foil assist people, there'd
It
be
would have
like
been
two people.
stupid.
There'd be two
Yeah.
people in the race, or you'd have to call off the race. So it's really nice that the skill set of all these people are getting better, and B, it's just more inclusive of people that maybe aren't as talented as the Kai Thompsons or the James Caseys out there.
Well,
So it's nice.
there's no doubt about it. Those conditions were like hats off to anyone that did it in the SUP downwind division because that was just so it's a pretty short race. Let's talk about that. It's literally only 11 kilometers.
I got 13 on my watch because maybe
13.
I
Yeah,
had to
okay.
cut a little bit. You were just going
You're
direct
always
line.
cutting towards the ocean. But yeah, look, between 11 and 13, it's a short race, but essentially the SUP downwind guys just pump the whole time. and that's where I had the advantage, um, being on the four drive. But yeah,
Yeah, so give us like tactics, like you've kind of been, I wouldn't say you're a full race guy, but you've done this race for the last 3 years, and I think you might have gone in one or two other races around the place, have you? Or
no,
it's
I mean,
just
I've done the last 2 years, I think, maybe three.
yep.
Last year, we'll start with last year. Last year, I had a shocker. I didn't get started when the hooter went off. It took me about 10 minutes to get going. I think it
Why?
was because so at the time I was on the 780 HA front foil and I tested it out in the morning and I used a high powered max battery. And then for the race, I dropped down to just the max power, the one just below it. Which one's that? Am I
The
saying the right thing?
original. Yeah, it's just the original max power battery. Yeah.
So I jumped on the original, and what I hadn't taken under consideration was I could pretty much flat water start the 780 with the high powered battery, but I couldn't with the less powerful battery. And because of that, it wasn't many bumps last year either. I I just struggled. I just couldn't get up on foil, and I had this life jacket on me. I never used life jackets, and it was throwing my balance off. Anyway, um, I didn't want that to happen this year, so I did train for this race. I had three sessions. So I was always going to use the Fusion, and I wanted to see how small of a front foil I could use and get up in the flat because essentially that's the trade-off. You want to be able to start and be able to go fast. So I was using it's the UHA, it's the 670,
You are.
the UHA, the new ultra high aspect by Armstrong, the UHA. Um, it's everything. I heard that the other day. I was like, oh, that's classic.
That's so good.
Anyway, so yeah, I took it out one day and it was fine. Like I got up in bumps, no worries, no issues at all. And then I felt like I was going pretty quick. Like I could still pump it because it's so high aspect and it's quite fast. But then the forecast came out for the race and I was like, whoa, this is not going to happen. So I tried to take it out in flat water and didn't have a chance. Like I can't get up on the 680 with the Fusion.
What
Sorry,
board are
the
you talking? And
670.
give the people kind of your weight, what board, maybe like what propeller, what motor you're using. People love
Yeah, so
those.
I'm on the 38 litre Armstrong mid-length and the new Armstrong Mast. So these are all like really high efficient products, the latest and greatest, and they definitely help you get up easier. But I found that in the flat water, I mean, sorry, one other thing I was going to say is that when I'm just going along on that 670, I pretty much got to be at like 70 to 80% throttle to even stay on foil in the flat. So it's it operates at pretty high speeds. So with the forecast that was coming, I was like, that's not going to work. I'm not going to have the same issues as that I had the year before. I need something bigger. The next foil that I have is the 870 UHA. So I took that out. I think it was the day before the race and went up in the flat and got up sweet. So it was no issues at all. And yeah, so that was my training before, and I kind of like just practiced getting up straight away in flats and a little bit of a bump, and did that the afternoon before, and that
That's a
was it.
really good point. Like, testing your gear before an event like that. I think so many people on race day, they get so influenced by what the people are doing around them and kind of might use something that they haven't used before, or exactly like what you said, like the year before, you wore a life jacket for the first time in the race and it felt so foreign and weird. Like, I think it's really cool that even if it was 3 days before, just like trying all these different setups, so in the race you're not going to have any failures, or you're trying to iron out like those times that, yeah, you're not expecting something.
Yeah, exactly. And it wasn't like training to get fit or anything. It literally was just getting to know the gear, And admittedly, I should have been doing it with the life jacket because the problem with the life jacket, and that was one of the race requirements for safety, is that you got this padding underneath your chest, and the padding sort of makes your board just, I don't know, changes the angle when you're trying to start. And it was just a big issue for the year before. Obviously, this time with this new U-Ha, I knew what I was getting into, and that's sort of, if I'd started late in this race, I wouldn't have been able to beat Kai. So all these factors play in. I mean, when the hooter went off, I was up straight away, and all these top end guys like Kai and yourself and like Oscar and James, they're not 30 seconds behind the hooter. They're getting up when it goes. So the sprinter doesn't start after the hooter.
Yeah, you're right. The race start is always so important. Like, on a sup, if you stand up and fall off, you've lost the race, guaranteed these days, because there's people that can stand up instantly, and whether they're on an uphill of a bump or an uphill of a swell, they can still paddle their foil up going uphill. It's insane, the skill level. And I guess same with the foil drive. Like, you can't wait for that swell to pick you up. You need to just like boost your trigger and like aim, find a downhill in any direction, whether it's a wind bump downhill or a swell downhill, or even like you completely turn around and use like the backwash coming off the cliff to go downhill. If
Yeah.
you can't get your foil up in the flat or up a hill. So it's like, it's just being like aware of your surroundings. And also like, did you find that the race start, because there was about 50 people in a line, was it kind of tricky to get your own real estate to get that like quick start? Or
Well, I sort of made sure to put myself in a position where I wasn't going to go into someone. So there was an aggregation of the top end riders near the boat on the most eastern side, which is the furthest away from the coastline. And I sort of, with the four drive, I knew that I didn't have to be up there because I could four drive upwind. Sorry, pretty much upwind because it was easterly wind. So I started closer to the shore, and I just had my own spot. And as you said, I didn't wait for a bump, but as soon as the hooter went off, I angled myself. So I started straight, and then I went a little. I can't remember if it was left or right, but I went to a trough, and then I was up within, say, 2, 3 seconds, and then off I went.
can you give us a little bit of a breakdown? Because I know that's definitely a skill that a lot of foil drivers love to learn. Is what is your technique of popping up really fast, especially on a relatively small foil? And how much do you weigh these days?
So I'm 98 kilos, so I'm definitely not on the light side for the gear. That's why I kind of went with
Yeah,
the
but you're tall. You're like 6'6", right, or something?
6'5", yeah.
6'5".
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just
And the
like that's yeah.
Yeah, so it's pretty tall, pretty heavy. But yeah, essentially I put my left, so my trigger's in my right hand, and my left hand goes on the front of the board, and I try and put as much weight forward as I can so that the board, when I throttle on, it's planing well, so perpendicular to the water level. And then I use my front hand to apply pressure up or down, and that's to maintain that level. And then I get up with my right hand and my throttle. So I use the
And
way.
your right hand is your stronger hand, like the hand you do everything with, right? With and everything.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's my riding hand. So I to be honest, I actually one thing I was just thinking about then, I actually go pretty much 80% or 90% throttle to start up to get on the plane. And then once I'm flat, I drop down on the throttle because I don't want to be coming up on foil and going around, just going
Mm.
too fast. So I'm utilizing the angle of the waves to go down, and then I de-throttle down a little bit, get on my feet, and then I pop myself up. So there's a
Also,
few little things going on there.
totally. So it sounds like you're not using the gear system. You're just using the traditional trigger and just like finessing the trigger. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm
Yeah.
using G5, which is the max power. So I'm definitely finessing the power, and it's a heavy burst to get onto the plane of the water while lying down, And as I get to my knees, I throttle down a little bit and then I start utilizing the actual wave energy out there. So by the time I'm standing up, I'm probably only at like 60, 70% power. And then I just pop up, if
Yeah,
that
that's good.
makes sense.
That's a good breakdown. I like that. You know, you use the power of the foil drive to get the board planing, and then
Yeah.
once it's planing, then you drop the power to get your feet set. And then once your feet are set and you're ready to foil, then you can kind of use as much power or as little power as possible, right?
Yeah. And this is all dependent on what size front foil. So when I'm on that 670, I pretty much got to go almost full power to get me going because I've got to be, my takeoff speed's so fast. So as I progressively go up in size and foil, I reduce the throttle because you reduce the lift off speed of your front foil. Because the amount of throttle you got to put on is related to your takeoff speed of your front foil.
Right. Okay, so now you've made it to your feet. What's going through your head? Are you looking kind of the direction you have to go, or are you kind of looking around you so you don't hit anyone? Like, what's going through your head when you're up and you're going?
Well, at the start of this race, I didn't really consider myself to even be a chance. So I was just cruising. I was looking around, making sure everyone was not. I didn't want to stuff anyone up, so I didn't cut anyone off. I remember Piros was on my right, and I was like, okay, I'll stick with them. And we headed out to sea. So that was always my plan. So utilize the bumps on foil and head out to sea with the foil drive. So slowly, the pack separated. Piros, the foil drivers, and the top end downwind suppers got ahead, and then that gave us all a bit of room, so we could all do what we wanted. And I just saw Kai take off, so I was like, all right, I'm just going to follow him. I'm going to go with him. And one thing that a lot of guys, I don't know if they'll realize, but there's no way I could have won this race at full throttle. I mean, maybe, but it's less likely I would have won if I'd been just purely on the throttle of the four drive. So I was utilizing the motor to literally cut out to sea. As soon as I saw a bump, I'd get off and then I would just pump and I would go as fast as I could um, towards the finish line. And essentially,
So you're zigzagging the whole way, basically. You're
yeah,
motoring out
zigzagging.
and then foiling in on the swells, and then motoring out, foiling in on the swells.
Yeah, but it's actually when I remember because I stayed with Kai for quite a while, and we were doing a very similar pattern. So once we got on the wave trains, we would literally sit next to each other, and we were just pumping and just going along. And as I remember there was about a wave train of 3 or 4 swells, and then it would go flat, and then we would have to pump out to sea. Well, he would have to pump out, and this is where my advantage came in. So where he was burning up his energy and using his cardio and his breathing, I was refreshing myself because I was motoring out. And then we'd do that again. So it was literally just a constant zig in and out. And the main difference between him as me was that he was pumping out to sea and I was just motoring out. So it was really cool racing with him because we were right next to each other for quite a while.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear. Like, it's like how you said it's the same technique, except, you've got those rests where you can motor. I think that's why the beauty of the four drive's so good. People that are getting into downwind, you can replicate what the guys are doing without the motor, but you've got more chance to have a breather, more chance to settle your nerves. Because I know when I teach the sup downwind, people are just so exhausted when they finally get on foil from paddling up that when they're on foil, they can't even concentrate on what the hell they have to do because they're just so gassed. Versus if you get someone who just motors up on the foil drive, then they can kind of swivel their head around and just be like, oh, this is what I got to do. I got to go left. Okay, I got to go right. And then if they make
Yeah,
a mistake, they come down and then they can just do it all again, motor again. So it's like such a great way to kind of figure out the lines you have to take, or yeah.
Yeah, and be able to use that thinking process because, I mean, realistically, ask anyone to go for a run and do some maths, calculus, algebra, whatever, anything complicated, they can't do it. And everyone knows that. But when you go in the ocean, nobody really realizes that. They're like, oh, I've actually got to use my mind to
Mm.
figure out this chess game of what bumps to go and where to go once that bump stops. Because that's all it is. It's predicting a bump when you come off one. And people just got to realize that if you're too gassed out, you're not thinking right, unless you go into your reflexes, which is where these top end athletes are, because they've done it so much. They know exactly. But when you're learning, you've got to really think and figure out the ocean. So yeah.
That's actually a really good point. The really good top guys, you see them, they've got a skill that is definitely an advanced skill is the mast height management. And if you look at Kane DeWild, Kai Thompson, those guys are so high on their mast. Like their foil is only just in the water. I was wondering if I know that you're not a full downwind guy, but you're a very accomplished foiler. And I like when you were not on the motor, like you were just pumping and gliding on the swells. Was there any time that your pod is dipping, or you just like super high on your mast and super efficient?
No, no, definitely. I mean, the pod was. I mean, it's definitely going in and out all the time. I wouldn't say all the time because you're not trying to do that, but it definitely happens. I do sup downwind like over this Christmas, this summer period. I might have done five, and I've always noticed that I'm actually really low on the mast. So I'm the opposite, but that's my safety because I like carving and doing turns when I downwind.
Yeah, I
Speed
definitely
is
think
all about
that
being high.
the way I've noticed it is that you see the really good downwind guys, they're really good at their mast height management, and then you see the really good surf guys like you and Bennett's and stuff, and they actually utilize their whole mast. They start at the bottom of the turn really low, because by the time they exit the turn, they're really high on their mast. So they're actually utilizing the whole real estate of that like altitude gaining and losing.
Yeah,
Um, and I think that's also a really cool skill that you see with like really good foil drive surfers is that they know, like if you look at who's a good example, like Robbie Miyashiro, like he'll through the turn be so high on his mast because he's trying to not make his pod touch, and like his tip will be out the whole way through the wave, but he won't cavitate or ventilate or anything. Because he just knows exactly where his pod is and he doesn't want to touch it. So it's pretty cool that that skill's translating across the four drivers.
well, I used to worry about it a lot, but with this new integrated mast and the new foldable props, like it doesn't make that much difference. Like you definitely look in a race environment, of course, you're looking at seconds, but it doesn't make that much of a difference. When I do a lot of coaching, I definitely teach people you really want to use that whole mast. When you're driving down, you want to be low, and then when you come up, you want to be at the top. But in this race environment, obviously I was down the bottom when I was motoring, and as soon as I was on a wave, I try to, when I'm at the crest of the wave, I try to be right at the top. So same as where Kai is. So maximum efficiency, and as you're going down that wave, you want to stay as high as you can. So when you transfer to the next one, you've got a little bit of room to move on that mast so that you can get yourself back up the top when you're at the crest of the wave and burn down again. So it's just a gravity game. You want to be utilizing your full mast, in my opinion. But one of the amazing things was how fast Kai was. I think so. When I spoke to him, we were on a similar size foil. He was on like a 780 or something. So there was a few advantages to me because I had the fusion weight and I'm a lot heavier than him. So if you put the two foils together, his is a very specific race foil. We were pretty much going at the same speed. So it was really cool being next to him because I'd never really even considered myself to ever go as fast as him. And I was talking to him, and I felt really bad because I was like, and I actually even said to him specifically, screamed it out to him, if I'm pissing you off talking, tell me to beat it because I can. I'm not pumping out, so I can. My cardio's fine, and I can talk to you. but I could tell that he was focusing and he needed to use his breath work. So, but he was cool. He even said, he goes, mate, if I don't talk back to you, it's because I'm focusing. I was like, yeah, sweet, that's fair enough. So, yeah, we had a bit of a chat out there. It was pretty cool.
That's hilarious. I had the same situation. I think I got a better start than Perth, and I was cruising along, and I wasn't going the pace that those top runners were going. Like I was going a much slower pace, and Perth was definitely on a faster foil than me, and he must have got up a bit later than me, and he came past me. And as he came past me, I was doing the same thing, like, "Oh, it's fucking hard out here! Like, geez, this is tough." He didn't even acknowledge me. It's like he had a frickin' his blinders on, and he could only see straight. He just like pumped past me, and I could see how focused he was in his face. And I was like, "Okay, he doesn't want to talk. All right, no worries."
You know what cracks me up is like Perth was almost saying he didn't want to do the race, and I was like, mate, you've got to do the race. But he is so competitive. Some people have just got it locked in their brain, this competition thing. Like it's just full throttle, you know. It's one way.
Yeah, I actually had to encourage him because he was there and he was like, "I'm not doing the race," and I'm like, "Why?" I was just like, "When do we get all these people together to have like a fun run?" And he was like, "It's not fun. It's bad conditions out there." And I'm like, "Yeah, but dude, like you go out in no wind all the time." And he's like, "Yeah, but it's better than this." And I'm just like, "Who cares?" I was like, "Just challenge yourself. Like, just see if you can do it. Like, there's no hurt in like." You're not being able to make it. Like he's already paid his entry. Like just do it. Like I guess
Yeah,
some people are so competitive that like if they don't see themselves winning, they just don't even want to go in it. Which I can understand that. Like that's not really in me. Like because I'm not super competitive in that way. But I can see that some people, they don't want to go on the race unless they have the
yeah.
chance of winning it. And
That, we see
yeah,
that so much, don't we?
yeah.
Unfortunately, but it's not a bad thing either. It just means that there's people that really take competition seriously, and that's great. Otherwise, competition wouldn't matter if you didn't take it seriously.
It's pushing the sport. Like I think, if anything, like so many people are like, oh, it was such a um, tough card you got dealt with the race, and I'm like, yeah, it was. But you know what? It also was. It was also amazing to see where everyone's at because seeing that people can race in that stuff now is next level. Like,
Yeah, Uh,
it's you can race in anything now basically because these guys are so freaking good that like it's so like they're not downwinding, they're down swelling. They're actually just pumping and catching swells and then in between the swells they're pumping to the next swell. Like it's freaking
and
incredible.
that's exactly what it was, and that's why. I mean, to me, I would never go downwinding in those conditions. I'm really big on the right tool for the right job. So that's
Oh,
not
it was a
down. That's
full it
not
was a
top.
full prone day. Like it was a surf day. There was
It
like
wa-
light wind, good swell. Like it would have
Yeah,
been so fun to have like a surf comp.
yeah, yeah. So, but we did it, and in all honesty, I at home would personally go for driving in those conditions, but I would not sub down in one
Yeah.
direction. I would
Yeah.
go upwind, then just burn around out there and stuff. But one of the other funny thing that happened during the race was as I'm going with Kai, so we probably spent 5-10 minutes out there. We're really next to each other. I'm making sure not to cut him off because I can sort of pick where I'm going. All of a sudden, I hear this bzzz behind me, which is that's the noise of the floor driver. And I was like, shit. And one of the things you don't do when you're racing is you don't look back because that's when you fall in. Um, so I was thinking Piros is right behind me, right next to me. And I was like, okay, well, I've got to put, because up till then I was probably 70% throttle at the time when I was going out. Because if you're going 100%, that's a really good way to fall off because you're just going, you're just smashing out. Um, but yeah, so I've heard this e-foiler behind me. As it turns out, it was an e-foiler, but I thought it was a four driver and I thought it was Piros. So I was like, all right, sweet, throttle on. So I gave it about 80, and that's when I took off on Kai and gave a bit of took a bit of an advantage. And anyway, after the race, it turns out Kai was telling me it was just some random e-foiler that came out to take some videos. And I was like, oh, shit. But it doesn't matter because it gave me a bit of a lead on Kai, and in turn I took the race out. But yeah, that was the main thing because we were really neck and neck for ages, and I was like, okay,
So how
time to
long?
go.
Would you say over 50% of the race, or did you kind of leave him like a third of the way?
Probably a third of the way, but yeah, it was really that moment where I heard someone behind me. I was like, nah, I'm going for it.
Love it. Love it. So
Because I was
you didn't see anyone else besides Kai the whole race, basically.
not really, because I was just next to Kai, so it was just
Mm.
me and Kai at the front. And one of the reasons I wasn't going full throttle because I started the race in anticipating that I wanted to return. So I wasn't going to focus on getting there with 50%, but if it was possible, I was going to get there with 50%. So if that makes sense. So if I had to give extra throttle at the end and not conserve battery and finish at 30% battery, I was going to do that to get a good place. But if I had a place and I could finish at 50% and return home, that was the goal. So yeah, and it turned out I did. So
Awesome. That's yeah, so incredible that like was it neck and neck coming up the beach? Because I know it was a beach finish, so it wasn't a finish in the water. You had to turn off your floor drive, run up the sand, go through like a gate. Was it kind of were you still neck and neck, or were you miles in front of him
nah,
by
no,
then?
no. I didn't know where Kai was. I think it was a minute or 30 seconds or something, which is a fair bit. So
It's a fair bit.
um, right at the end, I did look back and I was like, okay, how much room have I got? And I saw that Kai was like he was a fair bit behind. So when I saw that, I was like, I got on a wave train. I was like, sweet. So I did a couple of roundhouses
I
and
seen that. That was
I,
so funny. You did
I
some
was
big
gonna hit.
cutties.
So I kind of rode two waves. I was going to hit the whitewater at the end, but the foil was a little bit spanny, so I kind of opted out. And I was like, I mean, I am pretty puffed, so I didn't push it too hard. But yeah, definitely hit the beach and then ran up. It wasn't really a neck and neck finish line.
Yeah, yeah. You had it.
Yeah,
You had it
yeah,
clearly.
yeah. Well, that like if it was going to be super tight, I wouldn't have done the turns and just enjoyed myself on the waves coming in.
Mm.
But yeah, when I got to the last headland, I think I was at 59% battery, so it was great. I knew that when I hit the beach, it was 53%. So I was like, all right, let's do it. But yeah, watch Kai come in, and I was just amazed what these guys did, and Tibby and Snowy, Jared.
Yeah. No, it was really cool. And when I heard you got the line honors, that was it was epic. It was really cool to see. And then how because you came up to me before the race going like, I think I might just motor back. And I'm just like, really? And then when I seen you at the finish line, you're like, yeah, I've got more than 50%. I can easily motor back. And I was like, oh, that is the funniest story ever. Wins the race and then he motors all the way back to the start. I was like,
Yeah.
it's a really good advertisement for the Fusion.
Well, I didn't have to do it because I could have got a car back, but I was like, let's show what this fusion can do. Like, see what the power is. What its abilities and capabilities are. So,
Yeah. Yeah, to reiterate it, you said 11 kilometers one way. So you did 22 kilometers, or probably over if you counted all the zigzag and
yeah, it was. Look, between 11 and 12, I didn't start or finish my watch at the right time, but yeah, let's just go with 12. So it was 24 kilometers up and back. Um, And by no
incredible.
means, I'm not telling anyone that you're going to do 24 kilometers throttle on a fusion. This is utilizing wave energy and fusion energy. So um, it's a bit of both. And admittedly, I could probably go a lot further because I wouldn't, if I was going to try and do a maximum distance, I'd go on a bigger foil, and I certainly wouldn't be in race mode either. So there's a few factors, but it was pretty cool that I managed to do it. I was stoked. I was definitely tired when I got back, and it was
It's a long
interesting.
way. Very long
Yeah, yeah,
way.
because
Well,
on the way in, while we were doing the race, all the competitors were kind of like whinging. They were like, "Oh," and I saw it as well, not whinging. So I was saying, I think the bumps are better going the other way. Um, and I saw it too. I was thinking, oh, this will be an easy ride back. But as it turns out, the bumps going backwards were going more towards the coastline, so it was actually harder going back. So it's just it's that optical illusion when you're in race mode and you're focusing on something. You just want to go in one direction. You're thinking everything's against you, like the bumps are going the opposite way, but they actually weren't. So you definitely picked the right direction for the race, Kui.
Well, congrats. That's a huge feat. And then also to top it off, you won $700 for winning the foil assist division, which was really cool. Probably the biggest prize kitty that I think any foil assist race has had. Do you think? Or I don't think there's
Uh,
been any
I don't
money like
know.
that given to foil assist.
I had a shocker last year, so I wasn't on the podium, but yeah, I'm stoked.
And then I think what was really cool too, the only female that entered the race, Beck, she was on the foil assist too, and she finished the race, and she was the first out of any of the chicks, and she got $700 too, which was awesome, super encouraging for all the girls to see. And there was a few girls at the presentation that they said next year they're definitely keen to give it a crack.
Yeah, well, I've met Beck now a couple of times, and she's certainly not new to the four drive. So I'm going to classify her as quite experienced now. So congrats to her
Yeah,
for doing it and really giving it a go. It was great. Like she's good.
she
She
is. She rips.
she's going to be in the men's division next year, and she's going to take out some boys. So
That's it.
yeah.
Cool. Well, tell us a little bit, you've been with Foil Drive since the very early days. You've used the original system that then moved to the Gen 2 and then now to the Fusion. Kind of keen to hear your take on that progression of products and kind of where you've landed with your day-to-day use of the Foil Drive and um, do you use the Max or do you use the Fusion or do you still use both? I'm just kind of keen to hear what you've experienced in the last few months of receiving the Fusion.
Yeah. Well, yeah, as you said, I've literally been there since the start, and it's been pretty cool. I mean, it's one of those evolving things where as you get it at the time, it's the best. It's kind of like the funnest thing ever. And I remember putting the little box at the front of my board and getting my feet tangled up in the cable and not being able to run very long because the batteries were, I can't remember what the battery capacity was on those original versions, but yeah, and then you went to the Max and everything was better and you're having an even better time. And then now we moved on to the Fusion and it's constantly getting better and you're constantly excited and you're constantly having a good time. Presently in my quiver, I've got the Max and the Fusion. I'm one of those, I guess you could almost classify myself, you could say like lazy. Once I get a kit on my board, I don't like to switch it around too much. It kind of stays on there till I have a reason to take it off the board, such as traveling or putting it on a roof to go somewhere. I don't like disassembling gear. I like to just leave it on. So at the moment, the Fusion's on, and that's the one that's staying on. I do like a lot of the features that it provides me with. So it's the extra runtime to me is really important because I'm a heavier guy, and I quite like the fact that the swing weight's a little bit further forwards than the Max on the Fusion. So when I'm riding, so yeah, I'm not going to say that I prefer or yeah, that's how I'm going to word it. I'm not going to say that I prefer either or the Max or the Fusion, but I'm going to say that I probably use the Fusion more often because I like the runtime power on it, and I prefer being able to go out for a longer time and being able to go to different locations, and that's just a feature that suits me better for what I use it for.
Yeah, I think that's a really good answer. It's I don't think there's one product that's better than the other. I just think that they've all got their place. And I think, for someone like yourself that you're kind of explaining that you're maybe a little bit time poor and you don't want to muck around. You just want that extra run time. You don't want to come in and change battery. You want to just like have a big session. That's it, done, dusted. Um,
Yeah, yeah. Go in and like yesterday I went out and on the max I would have like a radius of say a kilometer or two where I'd play around with the Fusion 3, 4 kilometers. I can just one of the things with me is I get really bored if I do the same thing over and over. So I like the Fusion because I can hit 3, 4 surf spots even though three of them might be bad, one of them's the best, which I would focus on the max. But I kind of like doing the 3 or 4 because it changes it. So I'll do a left, I'll do a right, then I'll do one that's straight, and I'm doing pumps and I'm avoiding a rock, or I just mix it up. So it's just range and yeah, that's what I like about it. But in saying that, I love the max because that's the one I can travel with. So I haven't done a trip in the last year without a four drive. So I always
that's
take the
really
last
cool.
and solve the
Yeah.
battery.
So tell us a little bit about the travel battery situation. Like, tell us what that process is. Is it tricky?
So it's not a nightmare, but people just got to realize everything's weight. So when I travel with up to 60 kilos. So I always try and keep everything light. But at the end of the day, I don't mind putting an extra 4 or 5 kilos for the four drive because, in my opinion, it is a necessity. Like it has to come. So um, it's coming in, and I pay the excess weight. So that's just the way it is. So I always take my four drive with me because it just means that no matter what happens, no matter what the conditions are, I can get out on the water. So if it's too small to prone, if it's too light to wing, I'm still getting on the water. And even if it's for half an hour, it just kind of clears the mind and you can get on with your day and do whatever else you got to do.
So tell us about these trips. Like, I know you've traveled a lot in the last year. Tell us a little bit about where you've been, what spots you've been loving.
Yep. So I travel a lot to Namoto, but I'm not going to focus on that because they've got all the gear there. So two trips that spring to mind. I went to Thailand with the family, and that was a classic, perfect example of where the four drive travel batteries are perfect. The kids didn't have 30 kilos, so I just offloaded a bit of weight to them. And then it was perfect. Like when we got there, the waves are pretty much flat. The waves are lapping on the beach. I couldn't really prone take off because it's a little bit of a dumper, but it's a really mellow wave that comes in. It was maybe 5 to 10 knots wind, so I couldn't go winging. And every morning I'd get up, I'd go burn my 2 batteries. I'd be out there for like an hour and a half if I wanted to make it last long and come in and then just spend the rest of the day with the kids. But it also allowed me to get to all these waves that, as much as they're not breaking, they were perfect. They were like 1 foot, 1.5 foot, and just running for hundreds of meters, unbroken waves. So I had a great time over there. It was epic.
Was there any other foilers?
No, I was just by myself. I mean, all the hotel guests when I'd come in would just look at me like I was some alien because they hadn't even seen surfing, let alone an electric foil drive. So they were kind of just like, "Whoa, what is this thing?" It was really trippy actually coming in
Would you
every time.
recommend Thailand? Like I've always, when I went there last with my wife, I did see little waves. Like, I definitely seen potential.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as you saw, they're little waves. They're not perfect for anything else, and it's just amazing. Like it was really fun on the four drive. Now it does get smaller than when I was there, but yeah, I had a great time. So I really enjoyed it. And
Well,
recently I went to Indo, and none of the content's kind of out yet. We're sort of trying to figure out how to release it. But I also brought the four drive there, and um, this is for sort of a different reason. I always just like bringing it, but we had the jet ski there. We had wind. I had the wings, so we winged there. We used the jet ski. We were trying to do performance riding every day, and we're trying to get content, and this is a real athletes team trip. Um, so yeah, there's always this sort of pressure when you're trying it when there's a camera on, and I don't know if you feel that, but sometimes you just want to go out and just relax and enjoy being on the ocean, and that's exactly why I brought the four drive. I got some cool content where I was trying to do turns and I was trying to um, do some critical stuff, but essentially I'd go out every afternoon and I would just appreciate being on the water, having no reason to come back in, no kids, didn't have to cook. There was chefs on the island, so it was amazing. But yeah, just really being on the ocean, appreciating what it's got, and that to me is the pinnacle of the four drive. Just being out there and just enjoying yourself.
Yeah, it looked incredible. I seen some of the footage and it actually looked pretty solid. Like, maybe not your ideal foil conditions. Like, I know you're a big waves guy, so you probably loved it, but it looked like you nearly had to have the surfboard on a few of the waves.
I did get the surfboard out when it got up to like 10 to 12 foot, so it was really big.
Whoa.
So when it got really big, we towed. And I was on a 590 front foil, and to be honest, I mean, I found it quite intimidating on a foil because um, you just got like I was there's a reef on the inside, not a reef, but there's a headland on the inside. So I didn't want to lose my foil. So I wore a leg rope and I didn't want to get fumbled around with a 10, 12 footer. And some of them were barreling. So, um, yeah, that's pretty intimidating. But yeah, we definitely surfed. When it's barreling, I like surfing still. And especially when it's uncrowded, like every day of the week, I love surfing.
Yeah, I agree totally. It's just the whole crowd thing gets to me. So that's the reason why I would say
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
foiler now, not a surfer.
When I meet people, I don't call myself a surfer at all in any way, shape, or form. But the moment no one's looking and it's empty and there's no one out there and it's barreling, yeah, let's go surfing. It's pumping.
Yeah,
And
agreed.
then,
Agreed.
and yeah, like just tow foiled it. We actually even winged it when it was big. That's pretty intimidating as well because you've got this bloody wing attached to you and you just don't want to get ripped out. And it was super light, so there was a lot of challenging things going on. But yeah, we had a blast that trip. I was sick.
That's awesome. You're like definitely one of the foilers that's always on the move and doing cool stuff. What's on the cards for 2026? Have you got any like cool projects coming up or goals that you want to achieve?
Uh, Goals.
You
I
were
don't
still
know.
one of the first guys to pump around in the surf for an hour. That was very mind-boggling.
I haven't really gone down. I've hardly been proning lately just because of time, and as I'm getting older, I'm finding I'm foiling less and less. I'm noticing a pattern that's happening at the moment is that when I'm at home, I just work. And then the weekends is when I go foiling, or I go foiling when I'm going on a trip, and I just go bananas. Like when I was in Indo, I was just sunrise to sunset foiling non-stop. I blew myself apart. I was so tired. And then I get home and it's just like totally different because the kids are growing up and I want to make sure that I spend time with them. So um, I'm noticing that I'm foiling less, but I'm foiling a little bit more when I'm going on trips. The trips for this year, I'll definitely do Namotu again. I got that locked in. I'm trying to line up a couple of other Armstrong trips. But the problem is with work, I've burnt up. I accumulated a lot of leave during COVID, and now I've burnt it all up. So I'm back to, well, I'm going to be applying for leave without pay, put it that way. So yeah. So
Oh, it's cool
I'm
that
limited.
you can do that. Like you've
Yeah,
got the option to do that.
I hope, look, that's the aim. I am going to be limited to the trips that I can do. Long trips, weekenders, I'm hoping to do demo trips to all the surf shops and promote the brand. So that's on the weekender. So hopefully a fair bit of Gold Coast, Melbourne, maybe WA, just fun short strike missions, and a couple of, say, 4-day strike missions I've got lined up, but they're more swell orientated. So trying to do some cool stuff and tow somewhere, or even wing somewhere that could be cool. So I don't want to be bored this year is what I'm going to leave it at.
I don't think you can't be bored. You've got crazy ADHD and you can never sit still.
Mate, I'm getting. I thought that would get better, but I'm getting way more retarded now as I get older. Like it's just going, it's just stupid. Yeah. Well, as you get older, you realise your time's running out, so you try and condense it and fit more in. So, yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing all the hot tips and what's been happening. Is there anything else that we've kind of missed that you want to touch on, or
No, that was a pretty good summary of what I'd planned on touching, and I kind of don't want to waffle on too much. But yeah, that's definitely it. There's a time and place for everything, and the four drive's definitely in my quiver, and it's definitely on my travel quiver. And when at home, it's a great method of getting out.
you think? I think there's one actually that just came to mind. One last thing I'd like to get your perspective on is, with the amount that you've traveled and your surf background, can you see four-wheel drive etiquette? Is it been doing well, or you think it's getting out of hand? I'd love to hear your side of things.
That's a good question, actually. I I live in a little bit of a bubble where there's a foil ban, so I don't see too many people. Like, um, one of the things that we should know is that me and you, we live next to each other, but we hardly ever foil together because you're on a busy schedule and I'm on a busy schedule. But that brings me to the point where if I go foil driving, I'm literally on my own, and all the ways that I go to, I'm on my own. But when I go to other places, and I was on the Gold Coast last year, I was blown away at how many four drivers were out there. It was insane. Like, it's taken off. Now, then it becomes a numbers game. So people always complain when there's too many of something. So are they doing the wrong thing? I'm not too sure. No. Are they out there having fun? Yes. Most of the people that I saw were utilizing the motor to get onto waves. So let's use the Gold Coast Snapper as the example. They were utilizing the energy, the motor energy, to get on the waves out to sea, and they were staying well clear of the surfers. Are they mingling and intertwining with the foilers, like the proners? Yes, they were. Is that a bad thing? Well, it always comes back to people in different categories are always hating others. I did see a bit of tension between those two categories up there. I don't have any issues with it at all because I don't like categorizing things, and I don't like. I just want people to get along at the end of the day. Like, we're all out there to do the same thing, just a different way. And I did notice. I will also say that the foil drivers, because they were ending the wave so far, they were kind of ending the waves within the range of where there's swimmers. So, is there an issue there? It's kind of, swimmers might say that they creep up on you, but four drivers aren't out there to run into swimmers either. So it's always that catch-22 of what the person's opinion is on what someone else should and shouldn't do. It's more the problem of what, if it really is a problem, is what I'm going to say. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is like what you said, it's everyone's got a different opinion and some people's idea of getting in other people's way might be different to the other, but I think at the end of the day it comes down to safety and we have to make sure that everyone in the water is safe. And the way that I look at it is that um if you're going to be on foil or like motoring around on the foil drive predominantly and like you're moving at a pretty fast speed when you're motoring or you're foiling is just being spatial aware, and respecting other people's space. you know as you get better at foiling, you're more confident in your skills and you're happy to go closer to other water users. It's more just like, you might think that it's safe and that you're in control, but we're not, we're not perfect, and sometimes mistakes happen. And the worst thing that you'd want to do is like what you said, like if you came into shore and there was a swimmer there that just popped up in front of you because they just came up from, a little dive or something, and then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, and then you run into them, you'd feel horrible running into someone, you know. So it's just like I always try advocate for people just being aware, before they go out. Okay, there's a snorkeler over there. There's someone swimming here. There's someone on the boogie board over there. Okay. And it changes too, like from when you first go in to when you come out, maybe 10 more people came out. Is that surf break now too busy to have a four drive on it? Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But I think it's being respectful of like, you've had the foil driver has had 50 waves. This surfer who's out there, their plan today might only be to get 3 waves, and that's a lot for them. So don't, when they catch those 3 waves, get in their way, because you might ruin their day, because they're not on a foil drive. They might not be interested in foiling, or they can't afford a foil drive. So you're in this privilege. You are the top of the apex. You've got the choice of catching A, B, C, D waves versus this surfer or this swimmer who's out there. They're really limited, so you got to be respectful of like what they're trying to achieve in the water. Oh, and that's it. Jeremy has clocked out, but lovely episode. Thanks, Jeremy, for sharing your stories, and we'll see you on the next one.